This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news, and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Georgia Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, the leaves are turning in some areas, bare burning. There's a chill in the air. It just feels like Thanksgiving. Hi, everybody. So thankful that you decided to tune into the Farm Monitor. I'm Ray DeLessio.
And I'm Kenny Bergamy. Yes, Thanksgiving is upon us, and unfortunately, so are fire ants. But no need to worry. Coming up, join us as we spend the day with a UGA extension agent and learn the proper ways to treat your property for fire ants, including the most efficient methods to use and what equipment is best suited for that job.
Also on the show, maybe you have some family in town and you're looking for something to do over the holiday. Well, we have got a great suggestion you don't want to miss.
And then later, in honor of Veterans Day, we'll share the story of how these veterans are taking what they've learned on the battlefield and applying it to fighting forest fires. These stories and so much more starting right now on the Georgia Farm Monitor. Fall, a time of college football, harvesting crops, hay rides, and killing fire ants? Yes, you heard that right. John Holcomb joined a UGA extension agent out on the farm as she did a demonstration and has all the information you need to know to combat those tiny but toxic pests.
Believe it or not, this time of year is perfect for getting control of the fire ant population in your pastures. I recently joined Carroll County Extension Agent Paula Burke during a treatment on a farm to find out how exactly farmers can treat their pastures. The first thing is using the right equipment and products to make sure that you kill the queen.
We're demonstrating using a herd seeder. It's specifically calibrated for fire ant bait. This time of the year, I would encourage our farmers to use a product called Extinguish Plus. The way these baits work is the ants do the work for you. We'll spread it across the whole field, and the ants will go out, pick up that bait, and then bring it back to the mound. It gets fed to the workers. The workers can't support the queen, and then the queen dies, and then eventually the mound dies.
The individual worker ant only lives a few weeks. The queen can live for years. So that's, you have to intervene with the colony, not just killing those worker ants, because you could kill 100,000 workers and have very little impact on the colony itself.
You also need to pick a day with some good weather, which allows the ants to go out and forage for some food.
Bright sunshine, kind of a cool day, no rain in sight for at least the next hour, which is important. So today would be an ideal day to go ahead and spread that fire ant bait.
You will also need to check and make sure that the ants are actually foraging. If not, you're probably just wasting your time.
I like to put out potato chips and throw them on the ground in various areas in the field, not necessarily next to the mound. You want it kind of beyond the mound, and you want to test to make sure the ants are actually out foraging that day, because that's key. If they're not out foraging and you go out and spread that fire ant bait, they're not going to pick it up, and maybe it might rain later that night, and then you've wasted your money in spreading that fire ant bait.
Now it's time to spread the bait, which can be done in a couple different ways, as long as you have power.
Today we have the fire ant spreader hooked up to the back of a pickup truck in a receiver hitch. You could also use it on a utility vehicle or a four-wheeler that has that type of hitch. The important thing is you have the hitch and you have electrical power. Now
for the question everyone is wanting to know. How much does this treatment cost?
With this spreader, you're going to put out about 1.5 pounds per acre. So it will cost approximately about $16 an acre. If you skip a swath and you're spreading, you can get that down to about half, to about $8 an acre.
There's also the question of how often farmers need to do the treatment.
In the ideal situation, you may only need to spread once a year. If you have a really bad infestation, you may want to spread now and then follow it up with a spring application.
This method of treatment is very effective. But Burke says there is one thing to keep in mind when treating your pastures.
You're not going to totally kill every fire ant. You're just going to manage what you have, hopefully decrease your population, and kind of move forward there, and at least be at a level that you feel comfortable, a threshold of number of fire ants that you and your livestock can comfortably live with.
Although you will not be able to get rid of all the fire ants, using this method, you can reduce the population on your land by about 90%. Reporting in Franklin for the Georgia Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
Each and every year, hundreds of thousands of enlisted men and women will make the transition from the military life back to civilian life. And one of the biggest challenges they faced is selecting a new profession. Well, this week we profile one such couple that took up farming and never looked back.
Hi, I'm Glenn Robinson. We're here on my farm here in Rockmart, Georgia, Fish Creek community. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force. I graduated from Rockmart High School in 1969 and went right into the military. And then I retired in 2007 as a Chief Master Sergeant with the 22nd Air Force.
Hi, I'm Laura Robinson. I'm a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Air Force, and I mainly was in acquisitions, which is I bought the aircraft that pilots fly. I started in R&D. I was lucky enough to spend 2 years teaching ROTC at the University of Puerto Rico because that basically became my second career or third career after the farm.
We had the opportunity to buy this farm and we've really enjoyed it ever since. We're basically a cow-calf operator, and we also cut our hay to feed our animals. And that seemed to be the thing that we needed to do with our property because it was the easiest thing since we were still working and deployed a lot after 9/11. So it just made sense to go into the cattle business, and we've really enjoyed it ever since.
You have experiences that go straight into farming. You have those leadership experiences. You're organized. We all work hard. We have great work ethic. And that's what it takes to be a farmer. And if you're willing to learn and take the time to understand whatever crop or livestock you plan on raising, then you can make it. I mean, this is a perfect lifestyle for veterans. Perfect.
And as a veteran, I can appreciate being out on the land like this and having the time just to spend out in the area where God intended me to be at this particular time in my life. So I've really enjoyed it.
What is there not to enjoy? I mean, you wake up in the morning, you've got this gorgeous, beautiful sight to look out at, no people around to speak of, quiet, except for the noises of the cows and the turkeys and the dogs and the chickens. And you know, it's just beautiful. It's God's country.
We try to stay involved in the community. I'm the president of the Polk County Cattlemen's Association and also a member of the Farm Bureau here in Polk County as a board member. And we work a lot with the FFA and 4-H students here in the county. And we've recently started a calf show team here, which has been just an outstanding experience for us. Our time in the military, we wouldn't take anything for it. It was a long career, but you know, a lot of responsibility, and most people don't understand the sacrifices our soldiers and airmen and sailors do for this country. You're always away from home. You miss birthdays, anniversaries. I mean, anything that you can think about. But the people that we really need to think about also is the families, because they're the ones that have to stay behind and take care of things while we're gone. So, but the sacrifices, I wish everybody could really understand what all that's about. But you know, just get out and shake a veteran's hand when you get an opportunity to do it.
Great story, and we cannot thank them enough for their service. All right, when the Monitor continues, sure, Augusta is known for this certain famous golf course, but did you know without the Augusta Canal, there might not even be a Masters? Yep, it's true. See for yourself when the Farm Monitor continues after this quick break. So, the fall temperatures have arrived. There's a chill in the air. Thanksgiving right around the corner. Maybe you're saying to yourself, I want to get out of the house with the family, do something agritourism related. Corn maze? Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Wine tasting? Want to save the calories for Thanksgiving. Here's an idea. How about taking a trip down memory lane, or in this case, Memory Canal? Whether it's sightseeing, relaxing, taking in nature, or refreshing your knowledge of Georgia history, The Augusta Canal Petersburg boat tours have pretty much everything you need. First and foremost, let's start here at the Discovery Center to see the important role the canal played in Augusta's development.
Keeping pace with the New South is the new Augusta, fast establishing herself as the greatest inland and commercial manufacturing center in the South Atlantic states.
I don't think a lot of people realize the significance that the canal had on Augusta. One could argue maybe without the canal there would be no Augusta. I mean, what would you say to that?
Well, that's something that historians have pointed out to us. You know, the South went through a lot of changes, and the city leaders in the 1840s needed to do something because the population was leaving. And so they hit upon the idea of building this canal, which was a very forward-thinking idea at the time, to try to attract the cotton industry back to the South where the cotton was grown. And it turned out that they were right. It was a big success, and by the time the Civil War was over and the canal was enlarged, this community was one of the largest textile manufacturing centers in the entire South.
When this story was sent to me, I was looking for the agricultural value, and bingo. I mean, I found it. And when you step inside this museum, you see how much agricultural value is in here. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, absolutely. Of course, if you know the history of cotton, you know that it became an important commodity once the cotton gin was invented. The gin was invented not very far from Augusta. So as cotton grew, it exhausted the soil, and you know, the economy of the original cotton states began to decline. So Augusta needed to hang on to its population, and it looked north and it saw all this cotton that we're growing in the South, we're sending to New England and England. Why don't we bring cotton manufacturing closer to the source of the raw materials? So it was a very innovative, somewhat controversial idea in its time, but it proved to be very successful. Well, we call this the Augusta Canal Discovery Center because although it looks like a museum, it's not a museum. We tell stories about how the canal was conceived of, why it was built, how it was built, the effect it had, not just on Augusta, but on the state of Georgia and on the whole Southeast. So not only do we tell the story of the canal as an industrial revolution instigator, we were also the site of the Confederate powder works. So almost all the gunpowder made in the war for the southern side was made right here in Augusta, and it's because the canal was here to help power that manufacturing process.
So with all that knowledge in mind, we loaded up the boats and hit the high seas. All right, a little bit of an exaggeration, but nonetheless very enjoyable and, more importantly, very relaxing. With a number of cruises to choose from, you never know what you'll see on any given day. Plenty of wildlife along the canal, and from what I'm told, there's even the occasional alligator. Now, me personally, I'm more of a history buff, so this particular cruise was exactly what I was hoping for.
Well, you're going to go on what we call a Petersburg boat tour, and that also has a cotton connection. Petersburg was a farm-to-market town a little further up the river, and the cotton growers would bring their goods, and it wasn't just cotton, it was other agricultural products, you know, timber and corn and tobacco and whatever they grew, and bring it down to Petersburg on the Savannah River and put it on these long, narrow boats that would navigate down the Savannah through the rapids. So the boats were named after the town. Eventually, when the canal was built, it provided a nice, safe way to get around these rocky shoals that were very dangerous. So the boats would lock in at the upper canal and come safely and smoothly down to Augusta, where the goods would either be taken to the factories or shipped further on using rail and water transportation. And we do tours several times a day on general canal history. The tour you're going to take will focus on our Civil War story, which is very interesting. I think a lot of Georgians are very interested in the roles that our state played in the war. Now, Augusta was never in the conflict. We were behind the lines, but we had a big role to play in terms of furnishing the troops with gunpowder and other war material. We also do tours on Friday nights with music. So those are fun. And then about 6 times a year, we travel the entire length of the canal, which is 8 miles, go all the way up to the head gates where it starts and come back. So that last tour will be in November, and then we'll bring those back in the spring.
Yeah, a lot of fun, and a huge thanks to all the folks at the Augusta Canal Authority, as well as Rebecca Rogers, for making that story possible. Myself and John Holcomb Really had a good time. Again, if you want a unique experience, head on over to Augusta and check out the canal. You can find all the info about times, dates, etc. by logging on to their website at www.augustacanal.com. And hey, don't forget, if you missed any part of the story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel, the Georgia Farm Monitor. Plenty of stuff to choose from. In fact, the archive goes all the way back to 2009.
And while you're there, keep clicking and like the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page. Send us some feedback as well. If you have a story idea or if you just want to leave us a comment or suggestion, send us a message either on Facebook or at the address that is on your screen, news@farm-monitor.com. When we come back, the incredible story of how this military veteran is hoping to become a vet of a different kind, one that saves the lives of animals. Stay tuned.
Veterans are very disciplined, and with their experience that they've had in the military, we wanted to offer a program where we could reintroduce veterans back into the workforce, as well as help us get that restoration and thinning work done that we wanted to accomplish on the forest.
And when you thin trees, the trees that are left will grow quicker and they'll grow healthier. And so it's an important tool in forest management to reduce those surface and ladder fuels, and that's what the Umatilla Veterans crew is helping us accomplish right now.
We're thinning the forest in order to create a healthier forest, but also to create a fire break. We're a vegetation removal crew, but we get to go on fires. Just getting a little bit of taste of that, I absolutely want to do this for a very long time.
For someone transitioning out of the military, I definitely recommend this because myself, I was working in an office job and I was miserable, and I miss the cohesion and being around other veterans.
The more word that we can spread about this great opportunity for vets working in natural resources, doing things that they're gonna love.
What species is that?
Finding that job that they have been missing, the camaraderie that they've been missing since being out, I think is really huge.
This is absolutely a stepping stone into a career. We've had great success with folks getting permanent positions on other forests.
The vet crew is a big part of our mission. They bring a lot of leadership skills that we look for in firefighters, as well as preparing for the wildfire.
I mean, there's a lot of teamwork. All these guys out here are vets, so we all kind of have a commonality when we got together, so we kind of speak the same language. So that's pretty nice. Everybody has kind of like the same get it done attitude.
It's a great job because you meet a lot of really down-to-earth people. If you're not in the greatest of shape, you'll get in shape. Either the easy way or the hard way. You have to put in some time on your own.
The Umatilla Veteran Crew program is a great program and opportunity for veterans. You have the ability to get in, they learn how to run chainsaws. The structure that we have here reminds me of a military hierarchy.
And the Forest Service is a great place to work. This is your office, nature is your office. We're here in some really rural communities, but these rural communities love our veterans.
As we celebrate Veterans Day, America continues to show its gratitude to our military in various ways. One place you might find a surprising number of vets is on a college campus where hundreds of veterans are studying to earn degrees. Charles Denny introduces us to a veteran at the UT Institute of Agriculture with more on his brave past and promising future.
An early morning on the farm, and Brent Benet gains experience for his future. Brent is an animal science major at UT's College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources, and he's considering veterinary medicine. Part of his training includes this lab at UT's Little River Ag Research Unit, where he learns about the artificial insemination of dairy cattle.
So if I were to ever become a veterinarian, I'd like to run a mixed practice, do large and small, maybe farm calls. Currently I'm in an advanced reproductive physiology class, and I love it. So maybe repros in my future, I'm not sure.
For Benet, it will be a second career. The would-be veterinarian is a veteran. He served nearly a decade in the Marines and Army, stationed at Fort Campbell a while, with deployments to Iraq and the very dangerous Kandahar province of Afghanistan.
What would happen is that the Taliban would try to skirt around this specific part of the country, and run guns and drugs and try to get around us. So we kind of ran a blockade so they couldn't get around us.
The University of Tennessee has more than 500 military veterans, and 63 of them are here on the UT Ag campus. They're studying everything from veterinary medicine to plant and food science, and forestry, wildlife, and fisheries is a popular major among vets.
I think for veterans, many of them are motivated by the fact that they want to give back. You know, they've given much of their life to safeguarding our freedom, and they want to give back to careers that are going to have a future, like feeding the world and safeguarding the environment, and agriculture is always going to be needed.
Benet says the transition to civilian life wasn't easy, but the military prepared him well for college. The academics here are challenging, especially in animal science, but what students go through doesn't really compare to a combat zone.
I also see where they're coming from, because I am now a student, and you know, I get stressed out about these papers and this test here and this test there. I just know how to manage my stress a lot better than they do, because, well, this test isn't going to kill me.
And that is what you call perspective. For Brent Benet, every day is Veterans and Memorial Day. Some of his tattoos are in memory of friends who did not come home from their military service. Now he looks ahead to a future where he's finding a new way to serve. This is Charles Denny reporting.
Finally this week, we end with a story on how a U.S. Department of Agriculture program is helping to restore habitat for a very important pollinator.
Pat O'Leary explains.
The Karner blue butterfly is an endangered species, but here in north-central Wisconsin, these pretty pollinators have a safe space, literally, with the SAFE program. It's an acronym for State Acres for Wildlife Enhancement.
SAFE programs are across the country. Wisconsin has 5 SAFEs. We wanted to take some of these lands out of production, plant them with native seed, including the wild lupin, the larval host plant of the Karner blue butterfly. It's not only attracting Karners, but you're providing habitat for numerous wildlife and primarily other pollinators.
SAFE is part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP, which pays landowners to take sensitive parcels out of production for a variety of environmental benefits.
We actually help the poorer soils that aren't as productive, aren't as profitable to cash croppers or dairy farmers, and now we can put it into a program, and it actually benefits the wildlife, the landowner. It's a beautiful sight.
Well, there's the satisfaction of not having any erosion and to see it go back into native grass the way it was many, many years ago.
I think it's wonderful. I think corn, you'd probably make a little more money, but they make it affordable to do this because of the incentives.
The rental payments for SAFE CRP easements are administered by USDA's Farm Service Agency. FSA works with USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service and local partners to help landowners install the right plants and practices.
The variety of habitat that we've been able to create with the help of these 2 agencies is really remarkable, and as I say, it's brought us a lot of joy.
The private landowner is extremely important with conservation, and particularly with the SAFE program here, as this is maintaining habitat for the Karner blue, and then all the other pollinators and other wildlife benefit, as well as soil and water quality.
To learn more, visit USDA.gov and search SAFE. For the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I'm Pat O'Leary.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Here's a reminder for all the latest ag info regarding food, great recipes, and what's happening down on the farm. Check out our Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest pages. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of farming and with us here on the show.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.